Ladies and gentlemen, there is a tragedy I have seen unfold across generations, men and women who labor from sunrise to sunset, from youth to old age, only to discover that in the end they have gathered much, yet gained so little. They worked until 75, but they never lived at all. We are living in a world where people wear themselves thin, building houses they never enjoy, collecting money that never brings them peace, and chasing dreams that vanish like mist beneath morning sun. They end up with empty pockets, but worse than that, they end up with empty hearts. My friend, hear this truth. The greatest bankruptcy is not financial, it is spiritual. You see, education without wisdom is like a lamp without oil. Work without purpose is like a wheel without an axle. And a life without God is like a ship without a compass, endlessly drifting, busy, but never arriving. People toil because the world tells them more is never enough. So they run and they run and they run, but they never ask where the race is taking them. They gather wealth, yet lose wonder. They grind their years away, yet never taste the sweetness of peace. They rise early and sleep late, but deep inside, their souls remain weary. The Bible says, "What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul?" Ah, my beloved, that is not just scripture. That is life's ultimate question. You can work until your hair turns white, your hands tremble, your eyesight dims. But if your heart has never found its anchor in God, you will end up holding nothing but dust. But listen, there is another way, a higher way, a wiser way. Life begins not when you earn your first paycheck, but when you discover your true purpose. Real treasure is not found in bank accounts, but in the richness of character. Lasting success is not measured by retirement funds, but by the legacy of faith you leave behind. When you place your trust in God's wisdom, your work gains meaning, your days gain direction, your efforts bear fruit that does not fade with time. Then your life becomes a poem written by grace, sustained by purpose, and crowned with peace. So I say to you today, do not live merely to survive, and do not work merely to earn. Live to serve, to grow, to love, and to leave a legacy that outlives your years. For the one who walks with God will never end up with nothing, because in Him you have everything. Life's greatest poverty is not the emptiness of a wallet, but the emptiness of a soul. And though the world rarely speaks of this famine, it is the deepest hunger known to humanity. A man may walk through life with full pockets, yet hollow eyes. He may stand on mountains of gold, while his spirit withers in a desert of meaninglessness. For what is wealth if the soul is weary? What is success if the heart is starving? There are people who go to sleep on soft pillows, but wake with restless spirits, because comfort cannot cradle an unanchored heart. There is a poverty that is deeper than debt, darker than scarcity, and heavier than hunger. The poverty of a life without wonder, without direction, without God. It is a famine of purpose, a drought of wisdom, a barrenness of hope. You cannot measure it in currency, yet it bankrupts nations. You cannot record it in bank statements, yet it empties generations. You cannot hold it in your hand, yet it crushes the human heart with a weight no coin could equal. Imagine a life spent chasing, always chasing. Chasing security, chasing approval, chasing status, chasing the illusion that more will finally silence the ache inside. People sprint toward goals that shimmer like mirages in the desert. They capture one, only to find their thirst remains. They reach another, only to discover the well is still dry. The human soul was never designed to be nourished by material things. It was crafted for meaning, for truth, for fellowship with the one who shaped it. And without him, even abundance feels like famine. Spiritual poverty whispers quietly at first, asterisk, is this all there is? Asterisk, asterisk, why am I here? Asterisk, asterisk, why does success feel so small? Asterisk, but as the years roll by, that whisper grows louder, echoing through the chambers of a heart that once dreamed, once hoped, once believed. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose time and redeem what remains. You can lose possessions and rebuild again. But when a soul grows thin, when a spirit grows cold, when purpose slips away, that loss is harder to restore because you cannot purchase meaning, you cannot borrow peace, you cannot rent joy, and you cannot lease hope. Money buys beds but not rest. It buys entertainment but not joy. It buys houses but not homes. It buys medicine but not healing. It buys influence but not integrity. It buys admirers but not true friends. It buys luxury but not purpose. The world teaches people to fear financial poverty, but it blinds them to spiritual poverty. It urges them to secure their futures, but ignores the condition of their souls. It teaches them how to make a living, but never how to make a life. And so multitudes rise early, work late, climb ladders, earn titles, gather possessions, and yet remain poor in the places that matter most. They polish the outside, while the inside grows dusty. They strengthen their careers while their convictions weaken. They expand their opportunities while their inner world shrinks. But oh, a soul awakened, a soul fed on truth, hope, love, faith. That soul is rich beyond measure. A person whose life overflows with compassion, gratitude, patience, and purpose possesses a treasure no thief can steal, no market can crash, no rust can ruin. That wealth does not fade with age. It grows deeper, richer, more radiant with time. It is the kind of wealth that warms a room, strengthens generations, and echoes long after a life has ended. Spiritual richness turns ordinary days into sacred appointments. It transforms struggles into classrooms of wisdom. It turns work into worship. It brings meaning to small tasks and glory to great ones. It teaches a person not just how to earn, but how to live asterisk. And how does one move from poverty to richness of soul? Not by striving harder, but by seeking deeper. Not by collecting more, but by surrendering more. Not by filling life with noise, but by letting truth speak. True richness begins when a person recognizes that their soul is the most valuable possession they will ever steward. When they realize that peace is worth more than paychecks, that faith outlasts fortune, that wisdom outshines wealth, and that love is the currency of eternity. A soul anchored in God stands firm when storms come, endures when systems fail, rejoices when circumstances shift, and shines when darkness gathers. For the richest life is not the one with the most accumulation, but the one with the most transformation. A person may walk into heaven with empty pockets, yet enter with a soul overflowing. They may die without earthly wealth, yet leave behind a legacy of spiritual abundance. And so, the greatest poverty is not found in empty hands, but in an empty heart. The greatest riches are not stored in vaults, but in the depths of a life aligned with eternal purpose. For when the soul is full, even little feels like plenty, and when the soul is empty, even plenty feels like nothing. This is the truth the world forgets, but the heart remembers. There is a quiet tragedy woven through the fabric of modern life. People who work endlessly, tirelessly, ceaselessly, yet feel no closer to fulfillment than the day they began. They wake with alarms that jolt them into motion, carry stress like an invisible weight on their shoulders, and lie down at night with minds too weary to wonder and too numb to dream. The world applauds their productivity, but their hearts whisper a different truth. Asterisk, you are busy, but you are not becoming. You are moving, but you are not arriving. Asterisk. Work itself is not the enemy. Human beings were made for purpose, for creation, for meaningful effort. But when labor becomes directionless, when tasks become chains, when days become nothing more than cycles of survival, the spirit begins to wilt. Work without purpose drains the soul the way a desert drains the riverbed, slowly, imperceptibly, until one day the river is gone and only dust remains. We live in an age where schedules are full, but hearts are empty. Calendars overflow, yet souls run dry. People hurry from one obligation to the next, as though rushing itself were a symbol of importance. They mistake exhaustion for achievement and busyness for purpose. But a life that moves fast without meaning only accelerates toward emptiness. It is possible to be hardworking yet heart, poor, active yet aimless, alive yet unfulfilled. The tragedy is not that people work. It is that many work without asterisk. Why asterisk? They pour out energy like water into a bucket riddled with holes, wondering why they feel depleted even after reaching milestones. They earn salaries but not satisfaction, promotions but not peace. They run after goals society tells them to chase, not knowing that the finish line keeps moving, always just out of reach. Many die climbing ladders that lean against the wrong wall. The soul was not designed to thrive on motion alone. It was designed for meaning. Without purpose, even the noblest tasks feel heavy. With purpose, even hard work becomes holy. Purpose transforms labor into legacy, effort into expression, routine into rhythm. And when purpose is missing, the human heart becomes a wanderer walking, striving, sweating, but never arriving at the place called contentment. The world teaches people to be efficient, but not fulfilled, to be productive, but not peaceful, to maximize output, but not insight, to achieve success, but not significance. And so people grind through jobs they do not love for reasons they do not understand, carrying an invisible ache that whispers, "There must be more to life than this." That whisper is not weakness. It is the soul reminding them that survival is not the same as living. Imagine a man who spends decades building a career but never builds a life. Imagine a woman who earns accolades yet feels unseen by her own heart. Imagine a generation chasing deadlines but losing their dreams. This is the silent suffering of millions busy hands, tired minds, and empty spirits. But the deeper truth is that exhaustion is not always the result of too much work. Sometimes it is the result of too little meaning. When the heart is aligned with purpose, work becomes a river, flowing, alive, refreshing. When the heart is disconnected, work becomes a desert, dry, draining, merciless. The body may endure, but the soul crumbles. Yet purpose does not appear in grand gestures. It awakens quietly when a person begins to ask deeper questions. Asterisk, why am I doing this? Asterisk asterisk, what is this work leading me toward? Asterisk asterisk, what part of my calling does this fulfill? Asterisk asterisk, who am I becoming through this? Asterisk, when work is connected to something larger than survival, it becomes a sacred act, an offering of time, talent, and heart. The most radiant people are not those who avoid work, but those who infuse their work with love, mission, and meaning. Purpose lights the internal flame that keeps the soul from burning out. There is a powerful freedom in discovering that you were not created to run endlessly on the world's treadmill. You were created to cultivate, to grow, to build, to shape, to serve, but not to be consumed by endless striving. Your worth is not measured by output. Your identity is not defined by accomplishments. Your purpose is not limited to your profession. Work becomes fulfilling when it becomes aligned with your values, aligned with your gifts, aligned with your calling, aligned with the one who fashioned your soul with intention. Purpose does not always change what you do, but it transforms how you do it. It brings clarity to chaos, direction to effort, and joy to the journey. A life lived with purpose moves like poetry, intentional, rhythmic, beautiful. It is not rushed but rich. It is not shallow but deep. It is not frantic but faithful. In such a life, work is no longer a burden but an instrument, a way of expressing who you are and what you were made for. And so, the tragedy of endless work without fulfillment becomes a lesson, an invitation to pause, to breathe, to listen to the quiet yearning of the soul. That yearning is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the compass pointing you toward the life you were meant to live, where effort becomes meaningful, where striving becomes serving, where labor becomes legacy. For the heart cannot thrive on motion alone. It must move with purpose. Only then does work become not an exhausting cycle, but a path toward the fullness of life. True prosperity does not begin in the hands. It begins in the heart. It is not measured by the sparkle of possessions, but by the strength of wisdom guiding a life. Because when a person aligns their days with the wisdom of God, they discover a richness that money cannot buy and circumstances cannot steal. There is a deep, quiet flourishing that grows from the inside outward, like a well-watered garden hidden beneath the surface. And though the world may overlook it, heaven celebrates it. People often misunderstand prosperity. They imagine it as wealth, comfort, or the absence of problems. But prosperity, the kind that fills a life with peace and purpose, is born the moment your steps fall in rhythm with divine wisdom. It begins when you choose guidance over guesswork, discernment over impulse, God's direction over your own wandering. When the heart bows to truth, the entire life rises in strength. Wisdom is not a cold concept, it is warm light in a dark world, a steady compass in a stormy sea, a gentle whisper that leads you where striving never could. And when you walk in that wisdom, even the smallest choices bloom with meaning. You begin to see life not as a maze to survive, but as a path meant to be walked with intention. Decisions that once felt heavy become lighter, not because life grows easier, but because your insight grows deeper. Your burdens do not disappear, but you carry them with a new strength, a strength anchored in something greater than yourself. When people live without wisdom, they live reactively, pushed by pressure, pulled by desire, tossed by emotion. They drift like leaves on the wind, going wherever life blows them. But when wisdom guides the soul, the direction becomes clearer. The heart finds stability, the mind becomes calm, choices become purposeful, and life begins to produce fruit. Inner fruit like peace, patience, joy, self-control, and steady hope. These are not small things. They are riches of the soul. True prosperity begins when a person realizes that the world's definitions of success are too shallow to satisfy the deep needs of the human heart. You can have wealth without well-being, status without serenity, applause without alignment. But you cannot have wholeness without wisdom. Without that anchor, a person can climb to great heights, yet feel the hollowness echo in every achievement. Wisdom is what turns achievements into meaning and blessings into responsibility and talents into purpose. And wisdom does not shout. It whispers, it does not force. It invites, it does not confuse. It clarifies. It teaches you not only how to live, but how to live well. It protects you from the traps of pride, the snares of greed, and the illusions that promise joy but deliver emptiness. It opens your eyes to what truly matters and your heart to what truly satisfies. A life aligned with wisdom sees beyond the temporary shine of things. It recognizes that prosperity without purpose becomes a burden, and success without character becomes a stumbling block. Wisdom teaches the soul to value what lasts. It shapes your heart to appreciate truth over trends, depth over glitter, virtue over vanity. And once a person learns to walk in that wisdom, they carry prosperity with them wherever they go. Not because their circumstances change, but because they change. They become rooted, steady, grounded. They become people who weather storms with composure and face transitions with grace. They find that prosperity is not something acquired. It is something cultivated, and it grows inside them like a flame that cannot be extinguished. When wisdom leads, your relationships shift from draining to uplifting. Your decisions shift from fearful to confident. Your goals shift from self-centered to meaningful. Your days shift from frantic to focused. Wisdom brings order where there was chaos, peace where there was turmoil, and clarity where there was confusion. The world teaches people to chase success as if it were the ultimate treasure. But success without wisdom is like a house built on sand, impressive on the outside, yet unstable at the core. It takes one storm to reveal its weakness, but wisdom builds on rock. It makes you strong in character, rich in discernment, and anchored in truth. With that foundation, everything else, whether wealth, opportunities, influence, or dreams, finds its rightful place. For true prosperity is not a destination, but a way of living. It is the unfolding of a life guided by insight, shaped by truth, and rooted in God's direction. It does not demand perfection. It invites progression. It does not promise a life free of trials. It promises a heart equipped to overcome them. It does not offer fleeting pleasure. It offers lasting peace. When you align your life with wisdom, you begin to prosper in the deepest sense. Your decisions mature, your soul settles, your priorities sharpen, and your steps grow steady. You discover that prosperity is not merely what you possess, but who you become. It is the richness of a life lived on purpose, a life guided by truth, a life that shines with integrity and compassion. And such a life, no matter its circumstances, is wealthy beyond measure. For when true wisdom takes root, prosperity blooms, not around you, but within you. Time is the one treasure we all possess equally, yet it is the one currency most freely wasted. Money can be earned, saved, invested, multiplied, but time, once it slips through our fingers, is gone forever. It leaves no receipts and offers no refunds. It cannot be rewound, reclaimed, or redeemed by human effort. And yet, countless lives are lived as though time were an endless reservoir instead of a sacred river flowing steadily toward eternity. People guard their wallets, but they do not guard their hours. They protect their possessions, but they do not protect their days. They budget their finances, but they do not budget their life's moments. And slowly, quietly, time becomes the silent thief, stealing opportunities, relationships, dreams, and life itself. It does not rush in with noise. It moves with soft steps. When you finally turn to look for it, it has already disappeared. Time is more valuable than money because money belongs to this world. But time belongs to eternity. Money measures what you have. Time measures who you become. Wealth grows in a bank, but character grows in the minutes that shape you. You can always rebuild your savings, but you cannot rebuild yesterday. You can repair a broken investment, but you cannot repair a wasted decade. The seconds you spend today are the bricks of your future, and every choice is a stone laid in the path you will walk tomorrow. Most people don't lose time in great, dramatic moments. They lose it in small, unnoticed ones. A day here, an hour there, a dream postponed until later, a conversation saved for another time, a purpose delayed until someday. But someday is a day that never arrives for those who wait passively. The tragedy is not that time moves quickly, but that people assume it never will run out. Time is a teacher that speaks softly. It tells us that youth is temporary, opportunities are fragile, and seasons change without asking our permission. It reminds us that people we love will not always be with us, that doors will not always remain open, and that the heart's fire must be tended or it will burn low. Time is the great truth, teller exposing what truly matters and what was merely noise. In youth, time feels abundant, an overflowing well of tomorrows. But as years pass, we begin to understand that every sunrise is a gift, every moment a seed, every hour a chance to invest in what truly matters. And the wise realize that the value of time is not simply in its length, but in its purpose. A minute with meaning is worth more than a year of drifting. An hour spent in love, truth, or growth is richer than days spent in distraction. We live in a world that constantly tempts us to trade time for trivial things, to scroll endlessly, to chase entertainment, to live on autopilot, to busy ourselves with tasks that do not feed our souls. The world's distractions are designed to drain our days without us noticing. But when the heart awakens to the value of time, everything changes. Ordinary moments become precious. Simple conversations become sacred. Even the quiet becomes filled with possibility. To treat time as valuable is not to rush through life, but to live with intention. It means being fully present in each moment, loving deeply while you can, speaking kindness before it is too late, pursuing purpose while strength remains, and embracing the season you're in instead of waiting for another. Purposeful living is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters. When you truly understand the worth of time, your priorities shift. Instead of chasing everything, you focus on the few things that carry eternal weight: faith, love, relationships, growth, calling. You no longer seek to fill your schedule, but to fulfill your purpose. You stop measuring life by accomplishments and begin measuring it by alignment. You stop living by the clock and start living by conviction. Time teaches us to cherish people, not things. It teaches us to deepen relationships, not accumulate possessions. It teaches us to plant seeds, not hoard moments. It teaches us to forgive quickly, speak truthfully, give generously, live gratefully, and walk humbly. Time, when rightly valued, becomes a partner in creating a life of depth and meaning. The wise understand that life is not measured in length, but in legacy. Not in the number of years, but in the impact of those years. Some people live decades but never truly live. Others touch hearts, uplift souls, and change lives, yet walk this earth for fewer years. Time does not make your life meaningful. What you do with it does. Every sunrise whispers, "Here is another chance." Every sunset asks, "What did you do with the gift?" Every heartbeat is a reminder that purpose still calls your name. And so, time stands as both a gift and a responsibility. You are not promised an unlimited supply, but you are given enough to accomplish what you were created for. Every day is an opportunity to love more, grow more, serve more, learn more, and align your life with what truly matters. People rarely regret the money they didn't earn, but they deeply regret the time they didn't cherish. They regret moments they wasted, words they didn't speak, dreams they didn't pursue, and love they didn't give freely. Time is precious because it shapes eternity, and the one who learns to value time discovers a wealth far greater than gold, the wealth of a life fully, faithfully, and purposefully lived. There is a quiet sorrow that settles over countless lives, a sorrow that comes from chasing things that were never meant to satisfy the human soul. People run after shadows, convinced they are substance. They hunger for achievements, applause, possessions, and pleasures, believing these will quench the deep longing within. Yet the more they gather, the emptier they feel, because the soul is not fed by accumulation, it is fed by meaning. It is not nourished by things, it is nourished by truth, love, purpose, and God. Many people labor endlessly for what glitters, forgetting that glitter is not gold. They trade their days for trophies that tarnish, their energy for comforts that fade, their emotions for pursuits that leave them hollow. They climb mountains only to discover the peaks are lonely. They chase dreams that the world told them to chase, not realizing those dreams were never aligned with the voice of their own hearts. And when they finally reach the place they thought would bring joy, they find only dust. You can fill your house with things and still feel empty. You can surround yourself with noise and still feel lonely. You can chase every desire and still feel deeply dissatisfied, because the soul was made for something higher than the world's offerings. It was designed to hold eternity, and anything less will feel too small. People invest their time into careers that drain them, relationships that consume them, habits that numb them. They spend money on things they don't need, hoping to fill a space inside that material things cannot touch. They seek excitement to escape boredom, comfort to escape pain, entertainment to escape truth, but every form of escape only deepens the emptiness, because what they're running from is not life. It's the absence of purpose. A life disconnected from higher meaning becomes a desert. Water looks like a distant mirage. Promise looks like a shimmering illusion. But the closer you get, the quicker it vanishes. This is the tragedy of pursuing things that cannot satisfy. The journey feels urgent, but the destination feels empty. You keep moving, thinking fulfillment is one step away, one purchase away, one achievement away. Yet at the end of each effort, the heart quietly whispers, "Is this all?" That small whisper is not failure. It is truth trying to break through the noise. People pursue success believing it will bring peace, not realizing that success without purpose breeds restlessness. They pursue pleasure believing it will bring happiness, not realizing that pleasure without depth leaves a soul exhausted. They pursue wealth believing it will bring security, not realizing that wealth without wisdom produces worry, not peace. A heart without grounding will try to fill its emptiness with anything available, but nothing temporary can fill an eternal space. The human soul is like a candle meant to burn with meaning. When it's lit with purpose, it shines with warmth and direction. When it's surrounded only by things that cannot ignite it, it grows dim. And the tragedy is that many people spend their entire lives holding unlit matches, never discovering the flame that was meant to guide them. People chase attention but long for connection. They chase success but long for significance. They chase comfort but long for transformation. They chase luxury but long for love. They chase distraction but long for peace. The deeper truth is that the human heart is not fooled. It knows when it is settling for substitutes. It knows when the outer life is full, but the inner life is starving. It knows when excitement has replaced joy, when noise has replaced peace, when activity has replaced purpose. But the moment a person stops chasing what cannot satisfy, something inside awakens. The moment they pause long enough to hear their own soul's cry, they realize that true fulfillment is not found in more, but in meaning. Not in possessions, but in purpose. Not in the rush of life, but in the grounding of truth. A life built on eternal values produces deep satisfaction. A heart aligned with purpose no longer needs constant stimulation. A mind shaped by wisdom no longer craves empty pursuits. A soul anchored in God no longer settles for hollow victories. When a person begins to invest in what nourishes the soul, faith, love, service, growth, compassion, truth, the emptiness begins to fade. The inner hunger begins to calm. The ache to chase fades into a desire to become. And life, which once felt like a frantic search, begins to feel like a meaningful journey. This kind of fulfillment does not depend on circumstances. It does not require wealth, recognition, or achievement. It is the quiet, powerful contentment of a soul living in alignment with what it was made for. It is the peace that comes when the heart no longer grabs at temporary things, but rests in eternal ones. The world offers many things, but none can fill the depths of a soul created for more. True fulfillment does not come from reaching for everything. It comes from reaching for the right things. The things that feed you, deepen you, steady you, enrich you. The things that build a life of substance, not illusion. The greatest tragedy is not failing to get what you want. It is letting your soul starve while your hands stay full. And the greatest victory is discovering the fountain that truly satisfies and drinking deeply. There is a quiet wisdom woven into the fabric of life, that the things we hold most tightly often slip through our fingers, and the things we nurture in the depths of the soul endure beyond the reach of time. People spend their days building towers of achievement, collecting trinkets of success, and arranging the pieces of life like decorations on a shelf. But when the winds of time blow, and they always do, only what is eternal remains standing. Everything else is swept away like dust in the sunlight. Many live chasing the temporary, believing it will last forever. They invest their effort into what dazzles the eye, but does not deepen the heart. They cling to positions, possessions, pleasures, and applause, as though these things could follow them into eternity. But temporary things make poor anchors. They shift, they fade, they lose their shine, and they cannot hold the weight of a soul longing for meaning. Only what is eternal can satisfy a heart designed for eternity. Life has a way of revealing the fragile nature of the earthly. A job can vanish, wealth can evaporate, health can falter, relationships can strain, achievements can be forgotten. But the virtues planted deep within truth, faith, love, kindness, humility, righteousness, these remain like roots that survive every season. A person anchored in eternal values stands strong when everything else trembles. Their peace does not rise and fall with circumstance. Their joy is not borrowed from temporary thrills. Their purpose does not require constant validation. They live from a deeper well. Investing in what is eternal means investing in what shapes the soul. It means choosing growth over gain, character over comfort, compassion over convenience, and meaning over momentary pleasure. It means planting seeds that bloom long after our names are forgotten, seeds of goodness, seeds of faith, seeds that carry the fragrance of God's nature. People often fear losing the temporary, not realizing how easily it slips away regardless of how tightly they hold it. But they rarely fear losing the eternal, the patience that could have softened a heart, the kindness that could have healed a wound, the faith that could have guided their life, the gratitude that could have transformed their perspective. Yet these eternal treasures are the only things that will matter when everything else fades. To invest in the eternal is to live with open hands and an open heart. It is to give freely, love deeply, forgive quickly, serve gladly, and speak truth boldly. It is to choose what builds the inner world instead of merely decorating the outer one. It is to pursue what lasts beyond the applause, beyond the accomplishments, beyond the temporary seasons of success. Temporary things are like leaves, beautiful, vibrant, enticing, but destined to fall. Eternal things are like roots, hidden, steady, unseen, but the very source of life. A life built on eternal values grows from the inside out. It is not shaken by storms because its foundation is not made of sand. It is not swayed by opinions because its truth is not borrowed from the world. It is not starved by emptiness because its nourishment comes from something far deeper. The world teaches people to chase immediacy, get more now, feel good now, achieve fast, succeed quickly, accumulate relentlessly. But speed is not the same as significance. Volume is not the same as value. A life filled with temporary accomplishments can still be empty if it lacks eternal impact. People can be celebrated publicly and yet impoverished privately. They can win trophies and lose their inner peace. They can gain admirers but lose their integrity. What looks like abundance can sometimes hide a famine of the heart. But when a person invests in what is eternal, their life gains a new dimension. Their actions carry weight. Their words carry light. Their days carry purpose. Their presence carries peace. They no longer wake with a restless hunger for more. They wake with a steady desire to give, to grow, to honor the one who gave them life. They no longer measure their worth by their possessions, but by the depth of their character. They become people whose inner richness cannot be stolen. Investing in the eternal is not about ignoring the temporary. It is about placing it in its rightful place. Material blessings are good, achievements are worthwhile, opportunities are meaningful, but they are not ultimate. They are tools, not foundations, gifts, not gods, means, not ends. When they become the center of life, the soul shrinks. When they become the servants of purpose, the soul expands. A heart fixed on eternal things learns to see beauty in the ordinary, purpose in the mundane, and sacredness in moments that others overlook. It finds joy not in possessions, but in people. It finds fulfillment not in luxury, but in love. It finds meaning not in success, but in service. It finds peace not in circumstance, but in faith. And gradually, such a life becomes a living testimony, a quiet light shining through actions, kindnesses, choices, sacrifices. A reminder to the world that what is eternal is not distant or unreachable. It is present in every decision that aligns with truth, love, righteousness, and God's heart. For the greatest tragedy is not losing the temporary, it is neglecting the eternal, and the greatest joy is not possessing what fades, it is building what lasts. A person who invests in the eternal becomes rich in the only wealth that cannot be stolen. A soul alive with meaning, a heart anchored in truth, and a life whose legacy echoes beyond time itself. There is a moment in every life when the heart realizes that the most extraordinary gifts often hide inside the simplest acts so small, so gentle, so easily overlooked that the world rarely applauds them, yet heaven leans close when they unfold. Greatness, real greatness, is not always wrapped in thunder or crowned with spectacle. It often whispers through the unnoticed kindness of an ordinary day, through the quiet courage of a soul that chooses love even when no one is watching. Some wait for a grand stage, for a spotlight bright enough to justify their effort, for an audience large enough to applaud their brilliance. They wait for a perfect moment to shine, not knowing that the most perfect moments are rarely recognized when they appear. They pass by like soft breezes, subtle, delicate, carrying opportunities that only the attentive heart can feel. Those who understand the mystery of greatness do not wait. They act, they give, they serve, they speak life. They plant seeds in the soil of every passing moment, knowing that what seems small today may bloom into eternal impact. A single smile offered to someone fading in loneliness can open a window of hope. A gentle word spoken to a discouraged heart can shift the direction of a life. A small sacrifice made quietly can ripple across generations. Yet few notice these tiny sparks of goodness, because humanity is conditioned to chase the grand, the loud, the dramatic. And in doing so, we risk missing the miracles disguised as moments. Consider the sun. It rises without applause, warming the world without asking for credit. Consider the rain. It falls softly, unseen by most, yet without it nothing grows. Likewise, the unnoticed gestures of tenderness nourish souls in ways that no stage or spotlight ever could. A hand lifted to help, a moment given to listen, a prayer whispered for someone in pain, a decision to forgive rather than retaliate. These are the seeds of greatness. There is a different kind of power in choosing goodness when no one is measuring you. It is honesty without reward, integrity without recognition, compassion without expectation. It is the kind of character that builds not monuments, but legacies written not in stone, but in the hearts of those who were touched by your presence. The world may forget your name, but it will never forget how you made someone feel seen, valued, and loved. This quiet influence is a force stronger than fame, because fame fades but impact endures. Titles change hands, achievements gather dust, applause dies in the air, but the fragrance of kindness lingers long after the moment has passed. Every great movement in history began with someone willing to do something small, someone who refused to wait for a perfect opportunity, and instead created one through courage, persistence, and compassion. In truth, small acts are not small at all. They are sparks, and a spark in the right place can ignite a fire that lights the way for others. There are countless souls moving through life, carrying invisible burdens, grief they cannot articulate, fears they cannot share, wounds they cannot explain. To meet such a soul with kindness is to hand them a lantern in their darkness. To speak truth is to give them direction. To offer love is to give them strength. Your influence might be quiet, but quiet does not mean powerless. A whisper can move a heart. A gesture can heal a memory. A moment of empathy can rescue someone from despair. Often, the impact we make is one we never see, because the seeds we plant take root in unseen soil, but they grow. They grow in the depths of someone else's life, changing their choices, inspiring their courage, shaping their faith, strengthening their hope. What matters is not how visible your deed is, but how sincere your heart is. The world is full of grand gestures that mean little and quiet moments that mean everything. It is full of people who shine outwardly and fade inwardly, and others who seem ordinary yet carry a brilliance that warms every space they enter. True greatness is not about dazzling the world. It is about blessing it. Even the smallest deed done with love becomes something eternal. Even the softest word spoken with grace becomes a seed of transformation. Even the briefest moment offered with compassion becomes a shelter for someone's weary soul. When you choose to show love, you participate in something larger than yourself, something divine, something lasting, something woven into the eternal story of humanity. So, do not underestimate the power of your presence. Do not belittle the significance of your kindness. Do not dismiss the worth of your small acts. You may never know which simple gesture becomes the turning point in someone's life. You may never know which quiet choice becomes a pathway of healing for another heart. You may never know which moment of courage inspires a legacy that outlives you. Greatness does not always roar. Sometimes it hums softly in the hidden corners of a day. It lives in the way you choose to treat those who cannot repay you. It glows in the patience you show, the forgiveness you offer, the encouragement you give. It rises in the choices you make when no one sees but God. And in the end, it is not the magnitude of your actions, but the magnitude of your love that determines the weight of your life. The world may measure greatness by size, noise, and visibility, but heaven measures it by love, quiet, steadfast, unpretentious love that shapes the world one heart at a time. There comes a time in every life when the soul must pause and take inventory, must look inward and ask, Asterisk, what is steering me? What compass am I following? Asterisk, because the truth is this. If you do not take intentional responsibility for your life, something else will. The world is full of currents strong enough to sweep a drifting heart into oceans it never meant to sail. Culture will shape you if conviction doesn't. Circumstance will direct you if discipline doesn't. Fear will command you if faith doesn't. And without deliberate choices, a person becomes like a leaf in the wind, moved, tossed, scattered, never anchored, never rooted, never purposeful. Life is not meant to be lived by default. It is meant to be lived by design. But design requires intention, and intention requires responsibility. The quiet, courageous decision to hold the pen of your own story and write with clarity and purpose instead of letting someone else scribble over your dreams. Many drift because drifting is easy. It asks nothing, demands nothing, costs nothing. But drifting also delivers nothing. No fulfillment, no direction, no meaning. Those who drift wake up at 75, wondering how they spent decades climbing a ladder only to discover it was leaning against the wrong wall. Responsibility is not a burden. It is a blessing. It is the moment you realize that your life is clay in your hands, and you are free to shape it toward what is noble, excellent, and true. It is the understanding that though you cannot control every storm, you can choose your response. You cannot predict every season, but you can plant your seeds wisely. You cannot rewrite the past, but you can redeem the future. Responsibility gives you the power to stop repeating what is harmful and start cultivating what is holy. There is a sacred dignity in deciding, asterisk, I will take ownership of my days. I will not let old wounds write my future. I will not let fear become my master. I will not let excuses become my chains. Asterisk, that decision alone shifts the atmosphere of a life. Because once you step into responsibility, you step into partnership with possibility. Everything becomes fertile. Every moment becomes meaningful. Even hardship becomes a teacher instead of a thief. But responsibility is more than simply managing tasks. It is stewarding your inner world. It is tending the garden of your thoughts, pruning away the weeds of bitterness before they choke out the flowers of peace. It is learning to guard your mind the way a shepherd guards his flock, knowing that what you allow to wander in your imagination will soon shape the contours of your character. It is choosing the discipline of silence when anger rises, choosing humility when pride whispers, choosing forgiveness when resentment demands its rights. The world loves to blame. Blame is comforting. It shifts the weight to someone else's shoulders. It numbs the conscience by pointing fingers outward instead of inward. But blame is a thief disguised as a shield. It robs you of growth because it keeps you from seeing how you might rise above your circumstances. It robs you of strength because it convinces you that you are powerless. It robs you of destiny because it locks your potential inside the prison of "it's not my fault." Responsibility breaks that prison door wide open. It declares, asterisk, I may not be at fault for every wound, but I am responsible for my healing. I may not have chosen every storm, but I will choose my sail. I may not control the wind, but I will set my direction. Asterisk, that kind of responsibility is not crushing. It is liberating. It restores your agency. It renews your power. It awakens your purpose. And when a person chooses responsibility, something astonishing happens. Their life begins to bear fruit. Fruit of clarity, fruit of discipline, fruit of peace, fruit of accomplishment. They stop being reactors and become creators. They stop living by accident and start living by assignment. They discover that life, when lived with intention, becomes a symphony. Each note chosen, each rhythm deliberate, each movement meaningful. Even spiritual growth demands responsibility. You cannot drift into wisdom. You cannot stumble into holiness. You cannot wander into strength of character. These things come to those who seek, who cultivate, who commit. Responsibility is the soil in which every virtue grows. It is the quiet labor of tending your soul, aligning your heart with truth, choosing what is right even when no one applauds, and walking in integrity even when the path is narrow. But responsibility also requires compassion toward yourself. It is not the harsh voice of condemnation that says, "You must do more." It is the gentle call of maturity that says, "You can grow more." It does not shame. It strengthens. It does not crush. It calls upward. Responsibility sees your potential and invites you to step into it with courage and grace. And every time you choose responsibility, you carve a path for others to follow. Your children, your friends, your community, they all take cues from the way you carry your life. A responsible soul becomes a lighthouse, offering direction to others who feel lost in the fog. Without needing to say a word, your life testifies that discipline is possible, that purpose is attainable, that growth is beautiful, that faithfulness is worth the sacrifice. Responsibility does not promise an easy road, but it promises a meaningful one. It invites you to live awake, not asleep, deliberate, not accidental, anchored, not drifting. It is the key that unlocks maturity, the bridge that leads to purpose, the compass that keeps your soul from wandering into regret. Life will not applaud how busy you were. It will remember how intentional you were. It will not honor how many tasks you completed. It will honor how faithfully you lived. It will not measure how comfortable your days were. It will measure how courageously you chose your path. Responsibility is the difference between a life wasted and a life well lived. It is the difference between drifting toward nothing and steering toward eternity. It is the quiet but powerful declaration that your days are precious, your choices matter, and your future is worth the effort it takes to shape it with purpose. There is a peculiar tragedy that unfolds in the human heart when it allows fear to set the boundaries of its world. Fear builds invisible fences around the soul, fences made not of iron or steel, but of whispers. Whispers that say, asterisk, stay where you are, do not dare, do not stretch, do not rise. Asterisk and many, without even realizing it, begin to pace within those fences as though they were born to live small. They mistake limitation for safety and comfort for peace. They trade the vast horizon for a narrow corner and call it wisdom. But the truth is this: fear is not a guardrail. It is a jailer, and those who obey it will spend their lives standing on the shoreline of possibility, watching waves of opportunity crash and fade without ever stepping into the water. Fear persuades gently, almost lovingly. It tells you that risk is danger, that ambition is arrogance, that dreams are foolish. It convinces you that staying still is staying safe, not knowing that stillness can suffocate the soul just as powerfully as storms can test it. Every dream worth dreaming requires you to face something frightening. Every calling worth pursuing demands that you walk through a door marked uncertain.
And every life worth living will lead you to a crossroads where one path is comfortable and the other is terrifying, and only one leads to growth.
Fear is clever. It rarely shouts. It often disguises itself as caution, as logic, even as humility. It says, asterisk, you're not ready, you're not capable, someone else can do it better. Asterisk, it masquerades as wisdom while quietly draining your courage. But courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear decide your destiny. Courage is the quiet voice inside you that says, asterisk, I will move forward anyway. Asterisk, the saddest thing about fear is not the trembling it causes in the moment. It is the regret it sows in the future. Many look back in the final chapters of their life and realize that fear stole more from them than failure ever could. Failure teaches, fear paralyzes, failure shapes, fear shrinks. Failure gives you stories to share, fear gives you silence. A person who fails boldly is far richer than a person who never tried, because failure is a stepping stone, but fear is a quicks, and that holds you until your strength is gone and your purpose forgotten. Fear is not conquered by sudden bravery. It is conquered by steady obedience to truth. Every time you take a step beyond your comfort zone, something magnificent happens. The walls fear built begin to crumble. They do not fall in a single moment, but break piece by piece, step by step. You take a breath and step forward, and the wall shakes. You take another step, and a brick falls. You speak when silence feels safer, and another piece breaks loose. You try something new, and suddenly you see sunlight streaming through cracks that once held you in darkness. And soon enough, what once looked like a fortress reveals itself to be only shadows pretending to be stone. Fear thrives in imagination. It creates threats that do not exist, magnifies risks that are minimal, and paints disaster scenes that never unfold. It is a master storyteller, but every story it tells is written in falsehood. Your life's greatest defeats are often ones that only happened in your mind. The moment you confront those imagined giants, they vanish like mist in morning light. And yet, courage is more than simply confronting fear. It is choosing faith instead. It is believing that your life has purpose, that your gifts were not given to you by accident, that your potential is too sacred to waste on worry. Faith declares, asterisk, I am not alone, I am guided, I am strengthened, I am capable, I am called. Asterisk fear may whisper, but faith speaks louder if you choose to listen. There is something profoundly freeing about trusting that you were made for more than preservation. You were made for participation in something meaningful, something beautiful, something eternal. Fear always asks, asterisk, what if I fail? Asterisk faith counters, asterisk. What if this is the door to your destiny? Asterisk fear whispers, asterisk, you are not enough. Asterisk faith answers, asterisk, you are equipped for the assignment given to you. Asterisk fear threatens, asterisk, this is too big for you. Asterisk faith declares, asterisk, you were born to grow into it. Asterisk when fear rules your life, you live smaller than you were intended to. But when faith rises, you expand, your mind expands, your dreams expand, your influence expands. The territory of your life grows because the borders of your courage grow. Everything that will bless you, mature you, strengthen you, refine you, and fulfill you lies just beyond the line fear tells you not to cross. Some of the world's most extraordinary people were not the bravest, they were simply unwilling to let fear have the final say. They stepped forward trembling,
They spoke with shaking voices. They walked with unsteady feet. Yet with every step, their courage grew. And with every step, their purpose became clearer. What made them great was not that they felt no fear, but that they felt fear and moved anyway. Your future is waiting on the other side of your reluctance. Your potential is waiting beyond your hesitation. Your purpose is waiting on the far edge of your excuses. And you will never know what treasures are hidden in the field of your life until you dig with hands that refuse to tremble backward. When you choose courage over fear, you unlock doors you never knew existed. You discover strength you never imagined. You walk into a life marked not by the shrinking of your spirit, but by the stretching of your soul. And one day, looking back, you will realize that fear tried to reduce you to a shadow. But you chose to live in the light. You chose growth. You chose faith. You chose to rise. And because of that choice, your life became larger than your fear and stronger than your doubt. And the world quietly, subtly, beautifully became better because you dared to step forward. There is a profound peace that comes to the soul when it is anchored in something unshakable, something eternal, something far greater than fleeting circumstances or passing applause. Many spend their lives chasing security, wealth, comfort, and recognition, only to find that these things cannot still the restlessness within. A heart untethered drifts like a ship on stormy seas, buffeted by waves of worry, tossed by winds of disappointment, and never finding the calm of a safe harbor. But a life anchored in faith, in truth, in God, is steady in the fiercest storms. It is a life that cannot be undone by misfortune, shaken by trial, or diminished by loss. True stability begins in the soul. It begins when a person recognizes that the world will never provide the foundation the heart requires. Earthly wealth is temporary, earthly approval is fleeting, and earthly circumstances are fragile. But when life is built on a foundation that cannot be moved, on wisdom that transcends time, on love that never fades, on faith that sustains in darkness, then everything else finds its proper place. The storms may rage, but the soul remains anchored. The trials may come, but the heart does not sway. The world may crumble, but the spirit stands firm. There is a richness that the world cannot measure, a fullness that no bank account can buy. It is the peace that comes from knowing your life has eternal significance, from living with intention and purpose, from walking in alignment with truth. It is the calm assurance that no matter what tomorrow brings, you are secure, you are guided, you are held. And the depth of that peace is beyond understanding, beyond explanation, beyond human measurement. People often measure success by what they have amassed, by what they can touch, or by what the world applauds. But the truest measure of a life is not possessions or prestige. It is character. It is integrity. It is love freely given, kindness extended, faith faithfully lived, and hope steadily nurtured. These are the treasures that endure. They are invisible to the eyes of many, yet their value is eternal. They are the currency that buys nothing in this world, yet provides everything that truly matters. Peace, purpose, contentment, and joy that cannot be shaken. Anchoring your life in faith means understanding that you do not walk alone. It means trusting a power greater than your own, relying on a wisdom broader than your understanding, and surrendering control to one whose love is perfect and whose plan is flawless. It is the quiet confidence that even when the path is dark, there is a guiding hand. Even when the burden feels heavy, there is a strength to bear it. Even when the future seems uncertain, there is a purpose behind it all. Faith anchors the soul not because it removes difficulty, but because it places the difficulty within a framework of hope, trust, and divine design. This kind of anchoring transforms perspective. It changes the way a person sees trials, setbacks, and losses. Where fear might whisper despair, faith whispers courage. Where doubt might sow anxiety, faith plants hope. Where pain might threaten despair, faith promises redemption. Anchored in faith, a person learns to see beyond the temporary shadow of today and into the eternal light of tomorrow. The storms remain, but the soul is steady. The winds blow, but the heart is immovable. The tides rise, but the spirit rests. And faith does more than stabilize, it transforms. It teaches gratitude in the midst of struggle, patience in the waiting, humility in the success, and compassion in the midst of indifference. It cultivates a richness that cannot be taken away. It shapes character in ways wealth cannot. It nourishes the spirit when circumstances are harsh. It sustains hope when the world seems bleak. It produces fruit that cannot fade: joy, peace, love, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is a legacy in a life anchored in faith, a legacy far deeper than accomplishments, far more enduring than fame, far richer than wealth. It is a life that touches others without being loud. It shapes generations without seeking recognition. It leaves footprints not on marble or paper, but in hearts and souls. And that is the true treasure of a life well lived, the knowledge that you have made a difference, that you have loved deeply, that you have lived faithfully, and that your life has mattered in ways unseen yet eternal. To live anchored in God is not to escape reality. It is to navigate it with clarity, courage, and confidence. The storms come, the waves rise, the winds howl, but the heart remains steady because it rests in a power that cannot fail. It is the calm in the midst of chaos, the rock in the midst of the shifting sands, the light in the midst of darkness. Anchored faith does not remove hardship. It removes the fear of being undone by it. It does not promise smooth sailing. It promises a steadfast soul capable of weathering any storm. And in the end, people may measure life by things that fade. They may chase applause that dies quickly, possessions that corrode, recognition that slips away. But the one anchored in faith measures life by what is eternal. They build on a foundation that cannot be shaken. They live with a purpose that cannot be stolen. They walk in a peace that cannot be disturbed. And when the days grow long and the years pass, they will look back and see not a life wasted on trivialities, but a life planted firmly, nurtured wisely, and anchored eternally. For the soul anchored in God is never truly poor, never truly shaken, never truly empty. Though the world may rise and fall around it, it stands. Though circumstances may change, it rests. Though time passes, it endures. And that is the truest wealth, the most secure foundation, the deepest peace. A life anchored in faith, hope, and love, unmovable and everlasting. The treasures of the world may crumble. Fortunes may fade. Titles may vanish. But a soul anchored in God remains rich beyond measure, secure beyond fear, and joyful beyond circumstance. It is the life that cannot be undone, the heart that cannot be broken, the spirit that cannot be shaken. And that, above all, is everything. As we draw this journey to a close, remember this. Life is more than the hours we clock, the money we earn, or the applause we chase. True fulfillment does not come from endless labor or fleeting achievements. It comes from purpose, from wisdom, from courage, and from a heart anchored in what truly matters. You were not made to drift through decades and wake at 75 wondering where it all went. You were made to live intentionally, to invest in what lasts, to rise above fear, and to leave a legacy that echoes beyond your lifetime. Every choice, every moment, every small act matters. The steps you take today shape the life you walk tomorrow. So take hold of your purpose. Walk boldly into the unknown. Invest in the eternal. Choose faith over fear, meaning over distraction, and courage over comfort. Let your life be a testimony, not of what the world gave you, but of what you gave to the world. And as you go forward, remember, a life well lived is not measured by what you accumulated, but by what you cultivated in the hearts of others, in the depth of your soul, and in the eternal story of your days. The question is not, how long will I live, but how deeply will I live? Step into that depth today. Step into purpose. Step into life, because the world is waiting for what only you can give.